There once lived a young man who often felt discouraged about his life. Everywhere he looked, people around him seemed to be succeeding. Some were building beautiful homes, others were starting successful businesses, and many appeared to be achieving their dreams. As he watched them, he began to wonder why his own life seemed stuck. No matter how hard he worked or how much he prayed, his dreams felt distant, and he often felt left behind. One evening, with a heavy heart, the young man walked alone along a dusty road as the sun slowly set behind the hills. He thought about his struggles and the many delays he had faced. Looking up to the sky, he prayed and asked God why his journey seemed so much harder than everyone else's. He was tired of waiting and wondered if his efforts would ever amount to anything. The next morning, while passing through the village, he noticed an old brickmaker hard at work beside a pile of wet clay. The old man's hands were covered in mud, his clothes were dusty, and sweat rolled down his face as he carefully shaped bricks under the hot sun. The work looked difficult and unpleasant, yet the brickmaker worked with patience and determination. Curious, the young man stopped and watched him for a while. Unable to contain his curiosity, he finally approached the old man and asked, "Why do you spend your days working in the mud like this?" The brickmaker looked up, smiled warmly, and continued his work. There was a calmness about him that surprised the young man. Instead of complaining about the hard work, the old man seemed content and at peace. The brickmaker then pointed toward a magnificent palace standing proudly on a hill, overlooking the village. Its walls shone brightly in the sunlight, and everyone admired its beauty. Smiling, the old man said, "Young man, many of the bricks used to build that palace once passed through these muddy hands. Before a palace can stand tall, someone must first be willing to work in the mud." The young man looked at the palace and then at the mud-covered hands of the brickmaker. For the first time, he began to realize that great things often begin in humble places. The brickmaker picked up a small seed from the ground and placed it in the young man's hand. He said, "Look at this seed. Before it becomes a strong tree, it must first disappear into the soil. For a while, nothing seems to be happening, but deep inside the ground, growth is taking place." The young man listened quietly, beginning to understand that not all progress can be seen immediately. The old man then led him to a kiln where clay pots were being baked in a burning fire. He said, "Clay cannot become strong without passing through fire. If it avoids the heat, it remains weak and useless." The young man watched the flames and realized that difficult moments might be shaping him instead of destroying him. Next, the brickmaker pointed to a piece of gold being refined in intense heat. He said, "Even gold must pass through fire before it shines. The heat does not destroy it, it purifies it." At that moment, the young man began to see his struggles in a different way, not as punishment, but as preparation for something greater. As time passed, the young man continued his life with new understanding. He worked hard, remained patient, and trusted God even in difficult seasons. Slowly, things began to change. Opportunities came, his efforts began to produce results, and his life started to move forward. Looking back, he realized that every delay and challenge had been building him into a stronger person. Years later, he became successful and wise. Whenever he met people who were discouraged by their humble beginnings, he would share what he had learned. He would say, "Do not be ashamed of dirty hands or difficult seasons." The brickmaker builds palaces with mud. God also uses our struggles to prepare us for greater things. We now learn that difficult seasons in life are not always signs of failure, but often part of God's preparation for greater things. Just like a seed must go underground before it grows, clay must pass through fire before it becomes strong, and gold must be refined before it shines. People also go through challenges before they are lifted. We should not be ashamed of humble beginnings or slow progress, because God is often building strength, wisdom, and character in us during those times. Everything happens in its right time, and delays can be part of preparation, not rejection.